Sorosh Tavakoli. It's great to have you on the Big Green Show.
Woohoo! Good to be here.
Yeah. Well, you and NOQUO, and first of all, how do you pronounce it?
It's pronounced NOQUO, as in
NOQUO.
not accepting status quo.
That's where it comes from. That was my first question. NOQUO,
Yeah.
I get it. Now everyone else gets it as well.
Yeah, we get a lot of questions about that.
Yeah. Well, you and NOQUO want to make tastier and more nutritious plant-based alternatives for the masses. I like that, for the masses. Can you tell me a bit more about what that means?
Well, I mean, if we look at the big picture, I mean, and obviously your followers know this well. We are living a quite unsustainable, life right now on this planet, and we have to shift a lot of things over to become sustainable. People get that, and a big part of making our life sustainable is about the food we eat, and the animal-based food system is extremely inefficient. And if you'd compare it to electricity, it's worse than coal and many of the very old technologies that are used. So basically, we have to start eating more plant-based foods, and the challenge is to make and again, people get that, people are trying, and where there are good alternatives, people are switching over. Like, for example, in the milk category, there's a lot of people who've switched over to oat milk or soy or other alternatives. But then there are obviously other categories where we don't have good enough alternatives. We don't have tasty and nutritious products, and so people just keep on eating the inefficient products.
Yeah, I was going to say, we've seen it happen in a couple of industries. We've seen it in the meat industry, started to happen actually with the Impossible Burger and Beyond Meat, maybe the clearest examples because they're so high profile. But of course, every restaurant owner is trying to do it with vegan or plant-based burger as well. But I mean, when I first met you, you were actually doing the rounds because you already had then sold your ownerships in your former company. You were doing the rounds to see where you could have the most positive environmental impact, right? And I remember you called me and I was impressed. I was like, this guy is really trying to see where he can have the biggest bang for the buck. I would just start any company in front of me. But I was impressed with your ambition. And what led you to, because basically you are looking into cheese, plant-based cheese, right? What led you to that?
Yes. I mean, I think, it is the clear, it's a fairly new, it's not a trend, but a realization that our food industry is extremely broken and extremely inefficient. And I mean, food is the fuel for humans, right? It's energy for humans. And so you can just look at that just like any other form of energy source that needs to be carbon neutral or carbon negative or whatever over time. And yeah, if you look at the food, just the pure carbon emissions from the food industry, it's close to about a third of all emissions we have. And then so what was really exciting for me is I started to see this shift has started to happen. And again, consumers are wanting to shift over, but then you go and buy this vegan cheese and you go home and you're like, never again, or like, damn, now I have to throw food away because it's so terrible.
It seems like a tough one to replace the cheese. It seems like not the easiest one you started with.
Definitely, yeah. And so you have to obviously be able to make products that people really want to eat. And I mean, cheese, the only reason to eat it is because it's delicious.
That's probably
and if it's not delicious, if it's not satisfying that need, you're not going to go off and buy a bunch of cheese to make environmental impact, right?
No.
So the question is, how can you make food products that are ultimately, tastier, more nutritious, and also cheaper in a way, because that's also a big component. We have to also bring down the cost, and kind of going towards plants automatically makes it definitely more sustainable. So that's kind of just built into it.
And I think that one of the bigger things maybe that is sometimes overlooked is actually that a plant-based, well, again, burger maybe is a good example. A plant-based burger has a lower raw material cost over time, and it can actually have a lower production cost over time than the meat-based alternatives. So I think once we reach the point where it's actually tastier, and if the protein content is even better, then of course the markets will explode.
Yes, and I think that path is pretty well set out. We will achieve that. I mean, the let's say the Beyond Burger is made of pea protein, and it's not too dissimilar from what the cow is eating. So you straight up have very much lower resources needed, and then it's all about scale. There's also some subsidies and other structural challenges to reach price parity, but I think, I mean, we will definitely have plant-based alternatives be cheaper over time. And that flips things over, because right now, I mean, obviously, if you just go on price, you still end up buying the animal-based products.
Yeah, you do, unless you want to sit and mix it all in by yourself, but then you can probably get down in price. But you're right. But tell me a bit about your process. What have been the challenges? And can you even show us around there in the lab where you're at now?
Yes, I am here today. The rest of the team are in our pilot facility today. So it's our third day in pilot. So very exciting time for us as we're moving,
steps you are taking now.
Yeah, we have been doing very much, lab scale, or like 200 grams so far. And we scaled up to 2 liters here in the lab. And then now they're doing 75 liter batches. So very exciting. And so we also just recently moved into these new facilities. We are in Solna with this view. Yeah, and I will switch the camera. There we go. This one's better. So this is our office, and this is a co-working space as well that we have access to. But then we also have the lab here in the opposite room.
The cheese lab.
Exactly. It's a lab and a kitchen, you could say. Yeah. And so here we have a bunch of, ingredients and tools, and I'm not gonna.
Can you tell us what the ingredients are, Sorosh? Can you let us in on that?
Yes, and I can also. Here's also where we do the fermentation in this water bath. Yeah. So I can show you. Just I have some cheese here in the.
Yeah, we want to see the product.
Top secret. But this is
This is it.
This is our one of our first. This will be our first product out, and it's a feta-like cheese, which is made from fermented legumes.
Fermented legumes. Okay.
Exactly, and it has it's kind of similar to a feta or a fresh cheese. It has very similar nutritional
value or nutritional
value content. Exactly, as a feta, more or less. It's about 10% protein. It's about 20-25% fat, and it's both super nutritious, and it's actually really delicious as well, which is what's mostly important. And I would also say, like, it doesn't taste like any dairy-based cheese. It tastes like it stands on its own feet, let's say. But it also means that it's something you have to kind of get a bit used to. So it's nothing but what people tend to say is that it tastes very natural, that they all expected very artificial flavors and which obviously most of these products have. But when you're trying to mimic something else, you have to eventually go cheat with aromas and different tricks. And we've been more going towards the natural route of fermentation and using other kind of traditional tools to achieve that, rather than the artificial flavors.
Interesting. So it's a fermented product, and wish we had a tasting option in the computer here, but. Will this typically go, do you think, on sandwiches? Will it be grated on a pizza? What will be the use of this first product, do you think?
I would say this first product will be used similar to a feta, so on a salad, in a bowl, on sandwiches. And then also when we've worked with chefs, they've had all kinds of other creative ideas around how to use it and how to modify it, etc. So the chefs are the users initially, and they know best what to do with it. But it really, we've designed it in a way to really fulfill that kind of the protein need.
Yeah.
Let's say you have a salad, right? I mean, if either you have the protein is usually like some kind of a meat, a chicken, or shrimps, or you have a cheese. And if it's vegan, usually you end up with like either avocado, falafel, or maybe some hummus. But that's really where you want that cheese. You want the umami, you want the salt, you want the acidity as well, and you want that different bite and that creaminess as well. And that's kind of all of that we think this product can give, and really kind of contrast the vegetables and the salad and the grains and these things. So we're really excited. We think it can solve a lot of problems.
It sounds tasty when you talk about it so much.
Yeah.
Way more questions than I prepared you for. But I mean, one interesting thing with you is, I mean, you've already built and sold a company, a software company, Video Plaza. This must be completely different. Can you bring anything in from building that? I mean, you built that to a global company, you could say. Can you bring anything?
I mean, lots is same. I mean, the core of a company essentially is still, you need to find a real problem, right? Real problem that people really care about and that needs solving, and that has like that is at scale.
Yeah, and that was your focus with this, actually. Was
exactly, is to find the right area. What type of problem do you want to attack? And then it comes down to the people, finding the co-founder, setting up a structure to working together, and there finding Anya was really important for me. I mean, that was kind of the 2 years. I was, as much as I was looking for an idea, I was looking for a co-founder.
And you found that in her.
Exactly, I found that in Anya, and she's we're very complementary, and she's all about the science and super ambitious, and we kind of we come together in our ambition and in us being fearless and all that. But then very naturally we have different roles in the company, where she kind of takes the science and technical part, and I take the kind of business and marketing side more. But then we're building a team. Recruiting is everything, and getting the right people on board, getting the wrong people off, and just like that's a constant battle. And then to have this big vision that you can rally everyone around, whether it's team members or customers or partners or investors. So there's been more similarities than I thought. I have to say.
Yeah. What have been the challenges in terms of creating the actual product? Is there anything you can talk about?
I mean, it's really difficult. I mean, God, the team has really been challenging to find the right type of people who have, because there's not that many innovative companies around in the food industry.
Wow.
They're quite marketing driven, and there's a lot of let's reduce sugar in our ketchup, or fairly straightforward product development, rather than let's make a completely new product. Wow. And so there's also not been a lot of these jobs around, and we haven't found really smart people necessarily in the industry. So that's also been a bit like how to think about that. And when you're doing something new, that's always the case in a way. You don't find anyone who's done it before.
With the plant-based cheese, you don't, because they have.
No, exactly. Yeah.
No, exactly.
So that's, the team has definitely been one thing, and then the product itself is, God, it's so complex to make a food product. There's the protein and how you functionalize the proteins to really kind of. Because you have to mimic casein, which is the milk protein, and that's really what makes cheese. And there's no protein that's really similar to it in terms of in the plant-based kingdom.
Okay.
So you have to really go and find other proteins and see how you can functionalize them and get them to behave similar to casein. And then there's a lot of, the texture is really the trickiest bit to make it. Yeah, because the flavor, not as much. We think there's way more tools there to work with. And I think we've also found this, because initially it was a lot of like, food tech and scientists and but it's not. It's also food is culture, and we also have a heritage, and people like to understand what they eat, and they don't really. I mean, look around here; it doesn't look delicious. You don't see our lab going, "Oh my God, I want to try that cheese," and so really also embracing the more softer, deeper parts of the food industry and food itself.
I think that's a good point. It's one that I've looked for a lot of the plant-based options for both me and my family, and it really is. You need to understand what you're buying, otherwise it turns into a bit of a black box, and it's not so exciting. So I think that's a good point. Yeah. What about the fat? Where do you get the fat?
The fat is really important. I mean, because the fat is really what usually makes it soft, right? And when especially when temperature goes down, that from plant-based butters, for example, or spreads. So to make it more firm, that's been kind of a challenge. And we're using right now a combination of rapeseed and coconut oil.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And we have a strong partner in that as well, a specialized oil and fats company that we work very closely with. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, exciting times for you ahead. Final question, maybe. If we look forward, what do you want to happen in let's say, the coming year?
Yeah, so we're launching this first product, which is, we're really humble about right now. We want to see kind of what the reception is and really learn about all the steps we haven't done yet in terms of commercial production and launch and consumer, feedback and all these things. Yeah. And then it's really to accelerate R&D and to develop our melting cheese, and there's a bunch of other products that we have in the pipeline. But I mean, we hope that the need is extremely big and almost like a desperation in the market in consumers around a product like this. So we're really excited and kind of, we want to get out of our own way. But we need the product. Once we have the product, we have everything else as it comes to capital and I think talent, etc., to scale things up. But yeah.
Well, I'm excited to try it. I'm one of those looking for a plant-based cheese. So that's. Will this first one be only in the selected restaurants, or will I be able to get one? Will I be able to try it?
Initially, we believe it will be in selected restaurants and cafes, but hopefully not too long, and maybe we'll end up in a couple of specialized retail or cheese shops.
Okay. Well, I'll get one as soon as I can. Yeah. Great. Well. Look forward to it, and it's amazing to see you digging into and actually getting something like this done, Sorosh, from simply thinking about it and trying to decide which area to go for. Now you're into it, and you're soon out with the product. It's amazing.
Yes, very excited. I'm really excited to have more people also join this industry, because there's a lot of opportunity, and there's a huge need to shift over this industry. And we didn't talk about the climate impact of, the green show, this being called, a 1 kilo of cheese is equivalent of driving a car 50 kilometers. It's equivalent of, you need 3,000 liters of water. And, it's pretty intense. You need 15 square meters of land for 1 year, just for, for 1 kilo of cheese. So, and as you switch over to plant-based, you can usually cut that in 50% or up to 95%, depending on what parameter you're looking at. So huge shift.
To bring it up. I'm a bit ruined in that sense. I see it almost as a given, of course, because I know that's how you get into it. But I'm glad you bring it up. Yeah.
It's similar to eating pork meat, So cheese is actually way more. But people are not aware of it as much, and I think also given the lack of alternatives, in a way, the cheese has still been a bit holy. Yeah, people eat it with not so much bad conscience.
It may be the last dairy thing to go. Let's see. Hopefully, speed that development up.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, great, Sorosh. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thanks, Miguel.
Okay.
Good to be on the show.
Thanks so much. Bye.
Bye. Bye.